Fight! Double kill. Triple kill. Overkill.
I spent quite a lot of time going through several variations of a build that focuses on hand crossbows in the Sharpshooter feat, so I'm excited to present to you all the Twin Bolt Sharpshooter Maestro build. With this build, you'll be able to achieve single turn damage that you may not even have known was possible, while also being the face of your party and being really good at many things outside of combat. Now, due to the more complex nature of this build, meaning several multi-classes, I am going to recommend a few items that you can pick up along the way, and also at the end of the video, I will provide a few alternate but similar builds. But first, a message from this channel's favorite video sponsor, Factor. Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep, making meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever, and also saving you a ton of time, as these meals are ready in just 2 freaking minutes. During the fall time, it's a great time to eat food. That doesn't really make sense. It's always a good time to eat food, but fall time makes me extra hungry, but I'm also extra busy. With Factor, you can skip that extra trip to the grocery store. No more running into Mrs. Jones and having to give her the full life update from infancy to adulthood. Skip the prepping, the chopping, the measuring, and most important of all, at least in my case, skip the cleaning. And the great thing is you can do all this while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality that you need. Take a look. Choose from 34 plus weekly flavor-packed meals. So many good choices here, and let me remind you again that these are never frozen. And Factor even offers protein plus options, calorie smart, probably smart for a lot of us to do that, keto, vegan, and veggie options, and also desserts, shakes and smoothies, and extra proteins. There's a reason why I've seen Factor on the channel several times now, and that's because convenience plus good food equals me. So what are you waiting for? Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code WolfheartFPS for 50% off your first Factor box. That's factor75.com, code WolfheartFPS for half off your first delicious box. Thank you, Factor. Back to the video. So the focus of this build is getting a ton of shots off in a single round of combat and taking advantage of the Sharpshooter feat, which gives your ranged shots a +10 to their damage. Hand crossbows are some of the weakest ranged weapons in the game on their own. When you wield one in each hand and know how to take advantage of certain class features and feats, it can become the apex predators of the weapons world. As with most builds in this game, your race choice is completely up to you. You're going to start this multi-class off by investing 4 levels into the Rogue class. You can absolutely start off with the Bard class and then multi-class into Rogue later if that sounds more appealing to you, but in this video I'm going to start as Rogue, as I like the Rogue's early class features. For your ability scores, dexterity is going to be the primary focus of this build, as it's going to help your chance to hit with your hand crossbows and your finesse melee weapon, which you won't be using that much though. And it will also help with your damage dealt for each shot of your hand crossbows, of which you'll have a lot by the end of this build. I don't recommend things like this too often in builds, as I try to not influence your RP side of the game, but if you give yourself a 17 in dexterity and can then get the Hag's Hair in Act 1 to boost that to 18, this can be a huge help, as with this build you only get 1 ability score increase to get your dexterity to 20 due to this build's multi-classing strategy, although I will provide an alternate build at the end which allows for more ability score increases. If you don't have plans on doing the Hag's Hair or don't want to save scum to make sure that you get it, or maybe you don't even know what the Hag's Hair is and don't feel like looking it up, that's fine. Just give yourself a 16 in dexterity, and if you do happen to get the Hag's Hair, you could then respec and give yourself a 17 and the Hag's Hair will boost it to 18. Constitution and Charisma are your secondary ability scores here, and I recommend having at least a 14 in both, but probably a 16 in Charisma, not only for the RP side of the game, but also for Bard spells, which you will get later on in the game, but do keep in mind we are focusing more on weapons versus spells with this build. Feel free to dump Strength and Intelligence and boost that Wisdom up a little bit for those fairly common Wisdom saves. Rogues at level 1 get Sneak Attack, which adds a 1d6 bonus to your damage, which will increase to 2d6 at Rogue level 3. To use Sneak Attack, you must have advantage on the opponent that you're attacking. But what many don't realize is that if you expand the description of sneak attack, you'll also learn that you can use sneak attack when attacking an opponent that is within 5 feet of one of your allies. I'm going to recommend doing this as much as possible. Now, hiding does grant advantage on attacks, but it's actually not a huge part of this build in combat. So simply attacking opponents that your tank or frontliner is engaging with is going to be a great, fairly easy way to take advantage of sneak attack and the extra damage that it comes with. Before you leave the character creator, don't forget to select your skills, which can be viewed and selected by clicking the change button under skill proficiencies in the ability scores tab. The rogue gets to choose 4 skills, and 2 of them they can become an expert in, meaning double proficiency bonus. Choose whatever skills you want here, but note that your character is going to really excel at dexterity and charisma based skills. At character level 2, you're going to continue down the rogue path, and now you can use hide, dash, and disengage as a bonus action, which is very nice to have, especially considering that you're going to have an extra bonus action when you reach level 3 and take the Thief subclass. So at level 3, the Thief subclass is going to give your character an additional bonus action. And since you'll be dual wielding hand crossbows, and offhand attacks cost a bonus action, this will give your rogue a 3rd weapon attack. Your main hand attacks with your action, and then you also get 2 offhand shots with your 2 bonus actions. Don't forget that you can toggle on and off if you want your offhand weapon to automatically shoot following a main hand shot by toggling on and off this dual wielding icon right here. The damage that you're going to be dealing with this build is a lot, so just be aware that you don't always want your offhand shot to automatically go off, because you might already have killed the target with your main hand attack and then you would be wasting a bonus action. Since hand crossbows can be a bit harder to find in this game than most other weapon types, do note that Damon, the tiefling vendor at the Druid's Grove, does sell hand crossbows, including +1 hand crossbows. If you don't see any in his store, check back after you do a long rest, or you can just do a couple partial long rests right then and there, and this will change up his supply, and you can then have 2 hand crossbows in your hands very early on in the game. Do not overlook any +1 or even +2 hand crossbows that you may find or see in a shop, as they will be very beneficial in aiding your chance to hit. You could also hire the hireling Brinna, as she comes with a hand crossbow, and then take it from her, and you'll also just come across hand crossbows as you loot the more that you play. At level 4, this will be your final level in the rogue class, and this is the level where you will pick up the deadly Sharpshooter feat. Like I mentioned earlier, if you get the Hag's Hair around this time in the game, that will be your boost to 18 in dexterity. And if you don't do that, that's fine, but you're going to be stuck at 16 dexterity until character level 10, unless you find the Gloves of Dexterity and the Githyanki Crush, which can be purchased from the vendor Ajaknir. If you end up doing that, you could then respec and dump dexterity and only use the gloves and then spend your extra ability points in other abilities. So Sharpshooter is the bread and butter of this build, and it's going to make your ranged weapon attacks deal an additional 10 damage at the cost of a -5 to their attack rolls. It's also going to get rid of the attack roll penalty that you would normally receive when attacking from low ground, which is going to be very nice to have if you can't find or get to high ground in an encounter. Now this +10 to damage will apply to each shot of yours that lands. And since you chose Thief as your subclass for the Rogue, that gives you an extra bonus action. So you now have 3 shots in a single turn, which would equate to an extra 30 damage from Sharpshooter if all 3 shots land. Not to mention the extra sneak attack damage if you're able to use it on your main hand attack. This is a guaranteed extra 10 damage when a shot lands. It's not RNG. It's just 10 damage flat out whenever a shot lands. And that's a lot of extra damage, period, but especially at this level. By the time you reach max level 12 with this build, you'll be able to have a round of combat where you can get off 8 to 10 shots in a single turn, and that's without a potion of speed or the haste spell. And if all 8 to 10 shots land, that would be an extra 80 to 100 damage on top of your weapon's base damage, sneak attack, and flourishing attacks. I do also want to note here that you can turn off Sharpshooter if you feel like your chance to hit is just too low. Simply go into your passives and toggle it off. The key word here, though, is if they land, and that -5 penalty to your attack rolls is noticeable, so it's important that you do your best to reduce that penalty as much as possible. One quick way to turn that -5 into a -3 is by attacking from high ground. So with this build, you're almost always going to be looking to set up on high ground, whether on top of a building or on top of a cliff or on top of a few boxes. And keep in mind that as a rogue, you do have dash as a bonus action. So you can move really far in a single turn. You can move, dash as an action, and then dash twice using your 2 bonus actions. Also keep an eye out for magical items that may grant you spells such as Misty Step. A +1 hand crossbows, or +2, which can be purchased from Damon, will also minimize that attack roll penalty. If you have high ground with a +1 hand crossbow, that -5 is now a -2. You could then completely get rid of that -2 by simply taking 1 level into fighter, which is exactly what you're going to do right now at character level 5. So 1 level into fighter is going to give you the choice of a fighting style. And you of course are going to take archery, which grants you a +2 to your ranged attack rolls. You also get the fighter's second hand bonus action heal, which is nice to have. And the fighter class is going to grant you proficiency with medium armor, which you should switch over to now, and you get proficiency with all weapons. I'd also recommend at this time equipping your character with a shield in their offhand. The focus of this build is on the hand crossbows and utilizing them as much as we possibly can, so you might as well equip a shield, as it's going to passively boost your AC by 2, which is a pretty big deal. So at this point in the game, as long as you're utilizing high ground and +1 hand crossbows, Sharpshooter isn't really penalizing you that much, if at all. Another way to minimize that -5 is of course by gaining advantage on your attacks. You can hide to gain advantage, but hiding will only give you advantage on 1 single attack. It also takes away one of your attacks as it costs 1 of your bonus actions. This build is not really built around hiding, except perhaps for the first shot of combat where you may already be hidden. You'll be getting a few bard spells though soon, and some of these spells can grant advantage on your attacks. But with that said, I also would really like your character to have Bless active on them if possible, as Bless increases attack rolls by 1d4. It's worth having the cleric in your group give you and the rest of your party Bless, as anything that helps support you doing more consistent damage is a very good thing. I was going to tell you to get the Falar Alluve Finesse Longsword, which basically allows you to cast a version of Bless that lasts for 5 turns and doesn't require concentration. But the Falar Alluve Bless Melody does not buff the character who is wielding it, only nearby allies. Although the other action that it offers is a Shriek, which will give you an extra 1 to 4 thunder damage per crossbow shot to enemies that you hit that are within 20 feet of you, if you have the song active. That can add up to some nice extra damage with a build like this. This is one of the best weapons in the game that you can wield alongside your shield. Alright, let's move on to our next level, which is character level 6, which is going to be our first level into the Bard class. Now, some of you may be asking, why not 1 more level into fighter to get action surge? And my answer to that is, well, you can absolutely do that right now if you want to. But you're not going to see as much of a benefit out of action surge until you've gained extra attack and flourishing attacks from the Bard class, which isn't for a little while with this build, so I'd personally save fighter level 2 for later on. But if you do end up doing Bard before Rogue with this build, which is completely viable, feel free to take 2 levels in fighter right at character level 7 after you've done 6 levels in Bard. Now, the 3 main things that you're going to get out of the Bard class for this build are flourishing attacks, extra attack, and some spells to add to your versatility. And actually a lot of spells that will also help with the more RP side of the game. At Bard level 1, take whatever cantrips that you want. Personally, I'd be looking more so for utility cantrips such as Minor Illusion, Friends, and Mage Hand, as you don't really need any combat-focused ones. And for spells, I'm going to first recommend taking Fairy Fire. This is the first spell that you get access to that will give you the chance of gaining advantage on your attacks on enemies that are affected by the Fairy Fire. Fairy Fire has a range of 60 feet and it has a fairly large radius, and opponents that are affected by it will be forced to do a dexterity save. And if they fail, they won't be able to go invisible, and attacks against them will have advantage for up to 10 turns. And this goes for anyone who attacks the affected creatures. Having advantage, of course, greatly increases your chance of hitting your shots. I wouldn't say that you need to use Fairy Fire in every encounter, but if you don't have the greatest percentage chance to hit your shots, And also, the Fairy Fire is showing a decent percentage chance of it actually being able to take effect on enemies, it actually working. I say go for it, as it can give you advantage for up to 10 turns. There's only one other spell that I want to go out of my way to say that you should consider taking here, and that is Longstrider, if no one else has it in your group. And get into the habit of casting Longstrider on yourself and all of your party members, including summons, after the conclusion of a long rest. Longstrider will increase your movement speed by 10 feet, and it will last until you take a long rest. It also doesn't require a spell slot, as it's a ritual spell. For your other two spells, whatever you want, as none of them are core to the build, but personally I took Healing Word so I can help pick up downed friendlies if needed, and I also took Thunder Wave in case I find myself surrounded by multiple opponents when I'm on high ground. At level 1 as a bard, you'll also be given 3 Bardic Inspiration, which can be used to inspire an ally by adding 1d6 bonus to their attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws. But actually, when you reach Bard class level 3, these Bardic Inspirations will be solely used for your own character, but more on that in a few. For now though, I'd recommend giving inspiration to your party members before combat begins, so that way you can use all of your bonus actions for more hand crossbow shots. Don't forget to choose another skill proficiency as well. At character level 7 or Bard class level 2, you get a choice of another level 1 spell from the spells that we saw before. Take whatever you want. And you also get Jack of all trades, which gives you half your proficiency bonus in all skills that you're not proficient in. And you also get Song of Rest, which is basically like having a third short rest to use, and this can be super useful for your character, as your Bardic Inspiration are going to eventually be able to recharge on a short rest. And of course, it's also going to benefit Action Surge if you take that later on, and it's going to benefit all of your party members that have features that recharge on a short rest, such as Warlock spell slots or Druid wild shapes. And at character level 8, Bard level 3, this is where things start to get exceptionally good for this build. At Bard level 3, you get to choose your Bard's subclass, and the College of Swords is where it's at. Choosing the College of Swords is going to give you the choice of a fighting style, and the choices are dueling or two-weapon fighting. This choice doesn't really matter that much, as you're more so focused on your hand crossbows, but if you do find yourself in a melee situation and you equipped a shield like I recommended earlier, your one-handed weapon, if it's not versatile, will get a +2 to its damage from dueling. If you're not using the shield and instead using dual melee weapons as your backup, which is fine, sure, go ahead and take the two-weapon fighting style, as it's going to increase the damage of your offhand attacks. Two-weapon fighting, however, does not benefit the hand crossbows at all, as your dexterity modifier is already being added to your offhand hand crossbow shots, at least in the current build of the game. The real benefit of the College of Swords Bard, however, is gaining Flourishing attacks. These are weapon actions that are powered by your limited Bardic Inspiration, and they give you some extra benefits for both ranged and melee attacks. Defensive Flourish increases your armor class by 4 if you land your attack, and it gives you an extra 1d6 damage on top of your weapon's damage. Mobile Flourish allows you to push back an opponent 20 feet, and it gives you an extra 1d6 damage, and also allows you to teleport to that opponent if you so choose. And Slashing Flourish allows you to attack 2 enemies in one action, or one enemy twice. Both attacks getting that extra 1d6 damage plus your weapon's regular damage. And Slashing Flourish is going to be the big part of this particular build. It's the Flourishing attack that you'll use most of the time to dish out as much damage as possible. At this level, you'll have 3 Bardic Inspiration to spend on these Flourishing attacks, which will increase to 4 Bardic Inspiration at Bard class level 5. So right now, you can use your action and one of your Bardic Inspiration to do Slashing Flourish, giving you 2 hand crossbow shots with a single action. And you also have 2 bonus actions to do another 2 shots. All shots that land will proc Sharpshooter, that +10 damage, which equals to 40 extra damage if you land all the shots. And keep in mind, we still have yet to gain extra attack and action surge. Also, don't forget that you have your sneak attack shots to use when you're attacking opponents within melee range of an ally of yours. You also get to pick up a few more skills to be proficient in, and you get to pick up a level 2 spell right now, but it's not a huge deal what you take here. You're more so just expanding your character's versatility. Invisibility is a great utility spell and escape spell. Hold Person will get you another way to gain advantage, forcing your opponent to do a wisdom save, while Fairy Fire causes them to do a dexterity save. But like with Fairy Fire, you do have to give up your action to cast it, so you're giving up a few hand crossbow shots, so it's not always worth it. It's also nice to have a few damage spells such as Shatter, and Clouded Daggers is also a great spell for when you come across opponents who may be resistant to your crossbow shots. Next level, which is character level 9 but bard level 4, you get the choice of another cantrip and a spell from the choices that we had before. But bard class level 4 is also when you could take the ability score improvement feat. And if you did get the Hag's Hair, this is the time when you can boost your dexterity to that sweet 20 with that +5 modifier, increasing your damage dealt with each crossbow shot and your chance to hit. Let's continue on with the bard class though, as we need 2 more bard levels. And bard class level 5 is going to give us the very important Font of Inspiration, which allows you to regain your bardic inspiration on a short rest. So basically in BG3, that means that you should have all of your bardic inspiration available to use on most likely flourishing attacks for just about every combat encounter that you get into. After you finish an encounter, many times you'll want to at least take a short rest, which is really easy to do, to get those inspiration points back. Bard level 5 also increases the extra damage that your flourishing attacks give you from 1d6 to 1d8. You get another bardic inspiration die, totaling to 4 right now, and you get to choose a level 3 spell. Once again, it's hard for me to recommend specific spells here because this build's more so focused on the hand crossbows, and there's not many spells that make or break this build. It's going to be more so a personal preference. But I will say, combat-wise, Glyph of Warding is a great versatile spell that puts runes on the ground that can do various things, such as sleep opponents or do fire damage, and this spell does not require concentration. Moving on to Bard level 6, which is going to give you Counter Charm, which is situational, but more importantly, Bard level 6 grants you extra attack. Now when you use the attack action and attack with your main hand crossbow, you get to make another main hand attack at the cost of nothing. Extra attack also works with flourishing attacks, which is pretty crazy because if you use it with slashing flourish, which gives you those 2 shots at the cost of a single bardic inspiration, that's 4 total shots with 1 action, and you've not even used your 2 bonus actions yet for those other 2 shots, all of which will proc Sharpshooter if they land. If you have Bless active on your character from your sword or another source, and maybe even advantage on your attacks from Fairy Fire, there's a decent chance that all 6 of those shots will land. Let's take a quick look at the damage potential from that, just so you can put it into perspective. Your first shot is with your action using Slashing Flourished, which will deal 32 minimum damage if both shots land, 56 maximum damage. Your second shot is with extra attack using Slashing Flourish again, giving you 2 more shots, 32, 56 once again. And then you have the 2 offhand attacks. They're going to be a little bit less damage potential at 30 minimum if both shots land and 40 maximum. If all of those shots land, you're going to deal 94 minimum damage and 152 maximum damage. And that's not even including Action Surge, which you could pick up next level if you want to, nor is it including any weapon bonuses that you might have, potions of speed or spells like haste. And yeah, you do have to keep in mind that your bardic inspiration are limited, so you really only get 4 uses of slashing flourish per combat encounter, and each slashing flourish of course does 2 shots each, so that's 8 shots. But even with them being limited, they hit hard and they can completely turn the tide of a battle. And when you run out, you still have your sneak attacks. Just don't forget to take advantage of using the short rest feature and of course your Song of Rest so you get those bardic inspiration back. And you finally made it to max character level 12, where you have a few different options here. 1 more level into Rogue will boost your sneak attack dice from 2d6 to 3d6. 1 more level in Fighter will give you Action Surge, allowing you to use another action in a single turn of combat. And if you really wanted to do massive damage in a single round or on a single turn, you could use Slashing Flourish, giving you 2 attacks, then do Slashing Flourish again with extra attack, doing another 2 attacks, then Action Surge to get your action back, do another 2 Slashing Flourish attacks, and then another 2 with your extra attack, and then you still have 2 more offhand attacks with your bonus actions. Absolutely insane. But do keep in mind, you also only get 1 Action Surge per short rest, just like your bardic inspiration are limited. And if you do what I just said, you'll use up all of your bardic inspiration on a single turn if all of those shots land. Nothing wrong with doing that, as it really is a massive, massive way to change a combat encounter, to turn everything in your favor, but it's important to note that the use of sneak attack is unlimited. You could also take one more level in the Bard for the sole sake of taking another spell, and the Greater Invisibility spell is here. I do want to just talk about it quickly, as it allows you to attack with advantage, but every shot that you make, Slashing Flourish is actually considered only as one attack with this spell. Your character has to do a stealth check where the difficulty class increases by 1 and it starts at 15 with every shot that you make. Now your character should be really good at these stealth checks and should have a great chance of succeeding at least on the first few shots, but you're still leaving it up to chance. But if you do have someone in your group who can cast Pass Without a Trace, giving your stealth checks a +10 bonus, then holy crap, you're going to be taking a lot of shots with advantage. Personally, I'd probably take the level in Fighter here, as having that action surge available when needed can be pretty game changing, but whatever here, you're really already extremely powerful. Have fun. So you're now a max level Twin Bolt Sharpshooter Maestro. What a crazy, powerful, fun, and unique build, and we didn't even get into drinking potions of speed or having a caster cast haste on your Sharpshooter, but that wouldn't even be fair now, would it? Let me rapid fire off my other alternate build that still focuses on dual hand crossbows and the Sharpshooter feat, but instead of Bard with this build, you're going to take more levels in Fighter. With this alternate build, I'd say take 6 levels in the Fighter class to start with the Battlemaster subclass. 6 levels into Fighter will give you the Sharpshooter feat. Your dexterity modifier should be at least 18, possibly 20 if you did the Hag's Hair at this point. You should also have extra attack and superiority dice to make your crossbow shots more powerful and versatile in what they're able to do. You're then going to go ahead and take 3 or 4 levels into Rogue to get that Thief subclass, and you'll now have your extra bonus action, and if you do 4 levels, you'll definitely have a 20 in dexterity if you didn't have it before, and this leaves 2 more levels, possibly 3, of which you can double down into the Fighter for more superiority dice and a couple extra other passives, or go more into the Rogue to increase your sneak attack damage. You can also do something similar with the Ranger class with any of the Ranger subclasses. With the Ranger, level 5 is really the minimum that you're shooting for, so you get extra attack. Level 6 in Ranger doesn't give you a feat like it does with the Fighter, so it's not nearly as important. So you could do 5 into Ranger and then 7 into the Thief Rogue, or even 9 into Ranger and 3 into the Thief Rogue. Just make sure you hit the minimum of 5 in Ranger and minimum of 3 in the Rogue class. And that'll be it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Plenty more Baldur's Gate 3 build videos on the way. I might have to shorten them up a little bit, as this video took way too much time, ridiculous amount of time to put together. It was driving me crazy this week, but I did it, and I'm happy that it's out, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And please share any variations or any tips or anything you have for the community down below in the comment section. And thanks again for 200k subscribers, and thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video. I'll catch you on the next one.